we sweating? I'm sweating. It's recording. Yeah, there's a red dot. Okay. Oh, you want the tea? I'll give you the tea. Hello friends, welcome to the Blooming Stylist Academy. If you're new here, so am I. I'm Jay. My goal here is to be your salon business big sister, your salon business bestie. If you clicked on this video, you're probably a beauty industry professional of some kind, whether you're a hairstylist, an esthetician, a lash artist, a makeup artist, a tattoo artist. You might be feeling like you're ready to be a booth renter, but you've heard horror stories. You've heard some spooky ooky tales being told about taxes and expenses and insurance. My hope for this video is to talk about some of the myths behind booth renting, some of the spooky ooky stories that we've heard, and to tell you what my experience actually is over the past year and a half of renting a booth myself, what I've learned, what's been true for me in my business, so that maybe you won't be so scared. If that sounds cool to you, stick around because we're gonna go over the top 5 myths that I've heard and my personal experience, and hopefully we can debunk them. Myth number 1 is that you won't have enough clients to pay your rent and you'll go broke. That's spooky. For my business personally, the cost of my rent is equivalent to 1 color service. One of my average color services pays my rent. So I typically work 4 days a week and I see 4 to 5 clients a day. So if one of those clients pays my rent, then I'm seeing average 19 other clients, and that's all profit. That's all extra money. My rent is paid with seeing literally 1 client. I won't get into the numbers of all of this because pricing is so relative. I'd be happy to make another video about pricing, but you know, depending on your area, depending on your years of experience, depending on what type of services you offer, pricing is very relative. And I'm not here to tell you that one of your services has to be enough to pay your booth rent. I think so many factors go into pricing. However, for me personally, 1 color service pays my booth rent. In the very, very least, I knew when I first started, if I can have 1 client a week, my rent is paid. Now that's not profit, right? Like obviously I can't run a business like that, but it was really comforting for me to know in the beginning, you know what? All I have to do, if I lose all my clients, all I have to do is take 1 client a week and my rent is paid. That comforted me to feel comfortable to make the decision to jump to booth rental. But in reality, like there has never ever come a week where I'm only seeing 1 color client and I'm not making any money on top of paying my rent. If you're thinking about making the jump to booth rental, I definitely recommend going through your books and pulling up a report. How many clients are you seeing a week? How many of those clients are requesting you specifically? Get to know the numbers behind your business because that's what's gonna give you comfort moving forward, knowing, hey, if I take this amount of clients, I can pay my rent. That means like that's security, you know, that's safety. And during a decision that can feel really scary, safety is what you need to make you feel comfortable making that decision. And just start with the pure facts and the pure numbers. It's very easy for emotions to get tied up in all of this. That's where the fear comes from. But the reality is if you sit down with the numbers, you will know for sure, am I ready or am I not ready? Myth number 2 is that you'll make the same amount of money, if not less, working booth rental than you did working commission. I am so happy to tell you that this is not true. This was the biggest belief that held me back for many years from making the jump to be a booth renter. I truly believed in my brain, if I'm gonna make the same amount of money anyways, then why am I gonna do all that extra work of doing my own expenses, paying my own taxes, having to go to the beauty supply to stock up on products? Why am I gonna go through all that extra work if I'm just gonna make the same amount of money? You're not gonna make the same amount of money, point blank. You are going to make a lot more money, and let me break down for you why this is true. At my previous commission salon, I made 40% commission. That means that 60% of all the services I did went toward the owner of the salon or went toward the salon business itself. I took home 40% commission. As a booth renter, you keep 100% of every service that you do. You pay your own taxes, you pay your own expenses, but you keep 100% of the services that you do. So the easiest way to break this down, the way that I do it in my business, is I do a service, I make 100% of that. Immediately, I set aside 30% for taxes. I have a separate bank account to do that. Because of the amount of expenses you're gonna have in this business, you probably won't need that full 30% for taxes, but it's smart to have it set aside so that you're not getting hit with a tax bill every quarter or at the end of every year, and you're not like, wait, I made all the money and I spent all the money. You know, it's so easy to do that. So as long as you have a good system in place for how you're gonna manage your finances, you're fine. I promise you, you're fine. So for me, I do the service, I make 100%, I set aside 30% for taxes, and then my expenses equal about 10% of my income. That means that 30% for taxes, 10% for expenses, that leaves me with 60% after taxes and expenses. That's my money. Whereas before, I was only keeping 40% of my services. So the math is mathing on that. I'm now making about 60%, before I was making 40%. Mathematically speaking, there's no way you're gonna make less money unless you lose all of your clients. And we're gonna talk about that in a minute too. So the breakdown of my expenses is I go to Salon Centric twice a month. If you're familiar with Salon Centric, they do a sale basically every month on different color lines at different times. So I try to plan my visits around when they're doing a sale on my color line. It's typically like 20% off of everything. So I'll go twice a month and I'll spend between $300 to $500 just depending on what I need to restock on. So I'm spending about $1,000 average a month for all of my color. That's color, foils, gloves, extra color brushes, extra clips. Whenever I feel like restocking on those, I'll usually grab a few products for myself. I'll grab a few products for clients. So average $1,000 a month for all of those expenses. My booking system is $50 a month. So I add that in there too. And I just started working with a new retail line. The price point is great. The products are great. I really, really love it. So for that retail line, I'm spending about $200 a month to keep all of my retail stocked. But keep in mind, I'm only paying to restock the things that I've sold through. So I don't have stuff that's just sitting on my shelf, not selling. So I would say I spend about $200 a month to restock my retail. So with all of those expenses, it's still less than 10% of my income. My expenses are typically like $1,300 a month, and that's less than 10% of the income that I'm making from my services. So again, when you're running the numbers, you need to know how much am I making in services and how much would those services cost me in products to perform. And that's gonna give you a good idea of, would I be profiting enough money, right? If you're seeing less clients and you're doing less services, you're also gonna be spending less in expenses. So for me, it's $300 to $500. For you, it might not be. If you have a smaller operation, you're taking less clients, you're not gonna be spending as much in expenses, but you're not gonna be making as much in services. So again, like numbers are so relative, but that's a good way for you to get a good idea of how much am I gonna be making, how much am I gonna be spending. The last thing I'll say on this topic is I just wrapped up my 2024 taxes with my CPA, and she was able to tell me that from my last year working a commission salon to my first year of booth renting, I had a $13,000 increase in my income, and that's after paying my taxes. When I was working commission year over year, I was never seeing a $13,000 increase. I would go up in the level system, I would add more clients to my clientele, my prices would go up, but I would never see a $13,000 increase in my services. And last year I took 2 vacations. I took time off for every single holiday. I took a week off for Christmas. In general, I just worked less and I made $13,000 more. So again, the numbers are different for everybody's business, but for me, that is so extremely comforting. My first year of being an independent stylist, to have made that much more money than the year before. I spent so many years being afraid, and that showed me on paper, I didn't have to be afraid. Like, I have what it takes to be a successful booth renter, and so do you. Myth number 3 is that you won't get enough new clients to maintain your business year over year. This was a scary one for me. I'm happy to tell you that when I left my commission salon, I maintained almost my entire clientele. I'm happy to talk more about client retention and how to make sure that your clients want to stay with you when you change salons. I'm happy to say when I left my commission salon, I maintained almost my entire clientele. I've also seen a huge increase in referral business since becoming self-employed. I think there's a few things that factor into this. Number 1, I made sure to make my referral program clear to every single client. I gave every single client business cards, referral cards, and asked them verbally, hey, I'm really trying to boost my referrals right now. If you know anybody that's looking for a stylist, please keep me in mind. So many clients responded to this saying, I didn't even know you were taking new clients. Like, I thought your books were closed. Because my clients know that I have a busy schedule and they know, hey, it's kind of tough for me to get in sometimes, they all assumed that I wasn't even taking new clients. That means if one of their friends was like, oh, I'm looking for a new stylist, they weren't thinking of me. They weren't mentioning me. And it's only because they didn't know I was taking new clients. So saying this to them verbally at their appointments was huge, and I've noticed a huge increase in referral business. The second reason that I think this is because once I became self-employed, I was able to decide what my services looked like. I was able to change my schedule to better create the quiet, peaceful environment that I wanted my clients to have. I was able to really pour into my clients. I was able to choose what product lines I wanted to carry and what kind of cool, fun, seasonal promotions I wanted to offer to keep them enticed to come back for more. So this equaled just a little more spice in my business. This equaled a little more fun in my business. And that results in more clients. The more fun that you're having, the more passionate that you are, the more that you can keep things fresh and interesting, the more clients you're going to have, point blank. The more referrals you're gonna get, the more your clients wanna come in to see you. You have to just keep things fresh. Think about Trader Joe's, right? I am a Trader Joe's stan, and the number one thing that I love about Trader Joe's is that every single season there's new snacks. I get to come in and be like, ooh, what are the Easter snacks? Ooh, what are the St. Patty's snacks? Like, there's new snacks and fun new things always coming out, and it's half the fun of shopping there. You gotta keep things fresh within your business, and that can be hard to do when you work for a commission salon and you don't get to decide what the service menu is. So for me, the number one thing that I love about booth renting is that I get to make my own rules. I get to change my schedule to work during more quiet times so that my clients can come in and relax and get a really killer head massage, and maybe there's a seasonal scalp treatment that I'm gonna add on to that service. It's just a way to elevate your services, and that boosts referrals. I've also joined a lot of networking groups in my area, and while this was an option when I was working for someone else, I just find that I take more pride in presenting my business when it's my business. Rather than going out into the community and networking under the umbrella of someone else's business, I now get to go out into the community being an independent stylist and talking about my business with people with a lot more confidence versus kind of bringing people into someone else's salon and making them money, but it wasn't really benefiting me directly. So once I became independent, I just feel like I really stood in my power, and I really felt like going out into the community to make connections was for me. It was for my business, to pour back into my business. And that really helped me show up in a different way that I think has resulted in more new clients. Myth number 4 is that booth renters are uninspired and uneducated. What I've come to realize is a lot of commission salons lean on free education that's given to them through their distributors, through their retail lines, and through their color lines. And while free education is just as valuable as paid education, I did tend to find that I didn't take as much away from those classes as I've taken away from the education that I have paid for over the past year. I also found that when I was being given free education once a quarter, for me that kind of checked the box of education, and I didn't really seek out education on my own, because to me I'm like, well, I'm taking a class every quarter, that's good enough, versus working for myself and having to seek out that education. It's made me get really good at like keeping an eye out for education in my area, and it makes it honestly more fun. Not to mention, if I can be so for real with you right now, I was working like a dog to pay someone else's bills when I was working commission. I was working super duper hard. I was very burnt out. And the last thing I really wanted to do on my time off was go seek out education and be in another salon when I was in the salon way too much, working way too hard. Working for myself, my work-life balance is so much better, and that makes it so that I want to seek out education. I want to get inspired. I want to network within my industry. I'm just in a better place to seek out education now versus when I was working commission. The last thing I wanted to do on a day off was go and sit in another salon and talk about highlights. I got so much education last year, and my new non-negotiable is 1 cutting education and 1 color education per year. But to be honest with you, I will probably end up taking much more than that because it's fun and it's a write-off. Making a day of going to an education event with one of your hair friends and meeting other people and chatting, getting lunch, driving there together, like all of it coming together. And every time I take a class, I'm so inspired to go back into my own business. That alone makes it worth it. Even though you're paying for it by yourself, it's worth every penny. Myth number 5, people are not friendly or team-oriented in a booth rental salon. This one's a toughie because obviously every salon environment is so different. I'm lucky enough that I ended up in a salon where they still function as a team. We still have each other's backs. We check in on each other. We help each other with clients. We help each other troubleshoot formulas. We work in a pretty small space and we've had to learn to work really well together. Every salon space is going to be different. So what I recommend for you is when you're interviewing at places that you might want to rent a booth, get a vibe for the space. Ask questions about the culture, because even within a booth rental space, there is still a salon culture and a company culture that the owner of that salon cares about. And if they don't, it might not be the best environment for you. If you're wondering how to kind of feel this out in a space, I would say go in for a blowout first. Go in, get a little easy, quick service done, and just take notice. Go in with kind of open eyes and look around at how the stylists communicate with each other. Look around at, is the salon space clean? Does it seem like there's kind of like good vibes between the stylists, or does it seem like everybody's kind of head down in their own chair? You would be surprised how much you can pick up on these things as a client. So go in open-minded and just take notice of what you see. And to be honest with you, at this point, there are salons on every single corner in every single town. You don't have to choose the first one that you interview at. You're allowed to shop around for a salon to see, hey, you know what? I can really picture myself in this space. I can really picture myself working with these people. What's their social media presence like? What are their personalities like? You don't have to take the first one that you interview at. If you end up checking out a salon and it doesn't really seem like your vibe, follow that intuition and keep looking. Every interview you go on is just getting you closer to what salon you actually want to be in. So don't get discouraged if the first few that you check out aren't really your vibe. There's a salon home for everybody. I hope that you have enjoyed me busting all of these myths. I can officially say that I've busted the top 5 myths that I was worried about when I started booth renting. My hope is to inspire others who are scared to make this jump, or people who have started booth renting and they're starting to learn, hey, wait a second, a lot of stuff is coming up for me in my business right now. I need help. I think community is the biggest thing that matters in this industry. Having other people who understand what you're going through and can talk to you about things that have worked for them. It's just so huge. We have to lean on each other and we have to work together to elevate this industry. And that's what I'm here to do. Follow along for more videos like this and let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next.